Hey everyone, welcome to video 5 of our tile tip series. Today we're going to talk about tile installation. It's Cody with Up to Code. Now, like I've said in other videos, these are just tip videos. I'm not going to be able to cover everything about tile in these. Definitely going to help you guys at home, and especially beginners who don't know much about tile. Hopefully it should help you. So let's jump into it. So first thing you want to do, you should probably watch this whole series. The most important video is probably pre-planning. We won't cover everything in this video, but pre-planning is very important to this. So now you should be at the point where you're ready to install tile. I guess first off is, always checking your tub for level. That's in the pre-planning, but your first row of tile always has to be level. It doesn't matter how it is. That's very critical. I've seen experienced guys actually start tile just to the tub and go, and then they're fighting their grout lines because every tile is square. One thing that we like to do is just mark the center lines. Center lines can be in the center of a grout line like this one, or center line can be in the center of a tile. And that depends, also again, goes back to pre-planning, is just planning so you don't have nuggets in the corners. My brother Rudy's doing the install on this one. He's also cameraman, so thanks Rude. Dual function kind of guy. So what I'm told by Rudy and Matt, both my brothers, both my tile guys, is use a hard plastic spacer. So over here you can see we don't have a lot of tiles stacked up, but if you use a rubber one, the more tiles you stack, the more likely it is to compress and kind of throw off your grout lines a little bit. These red plastic shims are also really important, really useful with mosaic tiles, smaller ones, so you can adjust things. Your first bottom row, if you have to do a taper cut, you can tweak so that your first grout line is perfectly to your level line, and you can just shove those in along the bottom and they're good for adjusting. You can see Rudy has one here, just so that tile doesn't tip into the wall. So like I said, there's lots of information on this topic, but I want to show you what Rudy's been doing. Is here, this is a subway pattern. I can't remember the term for a true tile where it's truly flat and square and to dimension, but that's what these tiles are. So we can do the 50-50 subway pattern or brick pattern. But you can see where Rudy used a long tile with a short tile. So this looks like one. And then the next row is a big with a small, and a big with a small. Whereas if you don't think and plan ahead, some guys would do a big, and then the other row would be a small, and it looks silly. So this is a good look. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So glass shelves are another thing. Sometimes we'll use glass shelves in the shower. So you want to mark your curdy so you don't forget to put those in, because once you go past the grout line, you can't put it in later. So right here would be probably a good spot for a glass shelf. And then the next row, you just cut your tiles around the shelf. So that's one thing to think about there. Now, if you're doing a mosaic or some sort of inlay of a different tile, most of the time they're not the same thickness. So let's say you want an inlay of something fancy here and it's thinner than this stuff. You're going to want to build out with layers of curdy mat, or they make a product called Deecher, which is 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch thick. And you can build that out, and you got to play with the thicknesses. That's why we like to use multiple layers of curdy and then install it so that your mosaic is flush with the rest. So it looks just really perfect, and it looks professional, right? It doesn't look like a home job or weekend warrior did it. So the other thing to think about is, like if you look over here, this wall is technically dished in a little bit. So you can see back here, the tile is tight to the inside corner. And then it goes a little bit thicker. Rudy had to add a little extra mortar in this zone of the tiles, like a little bit here and a little bit here, to fill that void to make these straight. Because these have to be straight, so when you brick pattern the next one, it's all flush along the way. And also just making sure that Rudy likes to start at the schluter so that the tile's always flush here. And so that when you look from the side, your tiles aren't tipping back and forth and sticking past the schluter and then in and back and out, right? So anyway, that's another thing to think about. Yeah, so Rudy just said, you know, he laid this out so that when he started, he had to taper cut some of these because the tub was at a level, but you don't want to cut a sliver off because that's almost impossible because the blades deflect and you can't use the dry saw. So you want to cut like an inch off, but you also want to plan it so you're not left with a nugget at the top. And a nugget is a tiny piece of tile. So keep that in mind. Now, trowel sizes, this is just the gist of things if you guys are thinking about trowel sizes, but the smaller the tile, the smaller the trowel. So anything mosaic, you want to use what we would use as the Curdy trowel. Glass mosaic, backsplash stuff, things like that. Now we don't have the Dietra tile with us. It's a little bigger square notch. That you could use for 2x2 tiles. Those are used on like the floor of a slope shower, things like that. Some backsplashes, like I said, it's all relative. The bigger the tile, the bigger the trowel, right? If you use too big a trowel on a small tile, when you squish it to the wall, it's just going to squirt through all the grout lines, and you got to clean those out before you grout. So this trowel is a 1/4 inch gap, 1/4 inch wide tooth, but 3/8 deep. And we like using these quite a bit. This gives you a nice even amount of mortar. It also, with it being 3/8 deep, allows a little bit of play where you can squish a little harder over here and pull it out over here. Like I said, sometimes you have to just blob it on the back to build out areas where you need it to be thicker. Sometimes on floor tiles, we'll use a 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4 deep. I don't have one of those with me. This is probably the one we use the most when you're freehand tiling like this. It's just that 3/8 thickness just gives you that little bit of squish, whether it's on a concrete floor or something that has some unevenness. And then once you get into system where you wanted to use lash clips, so lash clips would make every single joint on here perfectly flush, and it's basically something that tucks in behind the tile and then it lashes through with the wedge and just pulls these super flush. And usually those you got to use something like a 1/2 inch wide or 1/2 inch big tooth, 1/2 inch gap, 1/2 inch deep. So that way, these are just nice. Like I said, if you're on a concrete floor, you have a little more play. You can squish a corner, or they're good for the lash clipping system as well. So that's it for the video. I'm going to wrap up. Thanks for following, guys. Thanks for tuning in. There's links down in the description of this video and every video on our channel. There's links for gear for sale, up to code stuff, how to contact us on social media, and affiliate links through Amazon. So if you're buying anything on Amazon and you want to support the channel, just go through one of our links and we'll get a small kickback, and that's how you can help us. So we'd appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Everyone, welcome to my tile tip series. There's a good looking son of a right there. Another thing